What the chuck is, everybody? Janda here, back at it with another video. In today's video, I'll be going over how I get all of my characters from 260 to 270. Let's dive right into it. So first up, as a disclaimer, you should only be getting your characters to 260 via a hyperburn. If you don't have a hyperburn, just don't bother. Spend your time on your main or any of your characters you've created already that is above 260. And then we have to ask, why level these characters above 260? What's the point? Well, the biggest one is this guy right here, Dunkel. Darknell, he is a level 265 boss, which means, due to our level advantage multiplier, if you are 260, you are effectively doing, what's this? You get 12% less final damage, which is an overall, 27% less damage overall onto this guy. Once you hit 265 and you match his level, you get a cheeky 1.1 times FD. That's extra damage, just 10% pure extra damage on the guy, and then it caps out at 20% when you're 5 levels higher. So this is the sweet spot, being plus 5 levels higher than it. In addition, you also get a little bit of extra damage thanks to your sack. You're fine saying level 1 and everything. Most hyperburns these days come with level 5 Cernium, which gives you a decent boost. Getting the Hotel, Arcus, and Odium above level 1 or 2 is completely optional, not required, but it can help. If you stack this with event buffs, you may even be able to pull out a cheeky normal Saren, but again, not needed. And then finally, it does make Black Mage a little easier. Black Mage is his phase 2 and 3 are level 275, so you do get that. If we go back to that chart, you're 270, you do 12% less damage overall to him. Whereas if you're 260, you're doing I think it's 50% less damage or something insane like that. And then when a Ctene Boss Mules done, it's going to be 150 mil CP, maybe 140 to 150. So you actually have a decent chance of just being able to do Black Mage once a month, which is a pretty penny in your pocket. Because if you have 7 Ctene, if you have what, no? If 13 characters on your account can do this thing every month, whew, that's 50, 60 bill a month. That's a big stimmy. So this is what I'll be doing once all my characters are basically done. I'll be running Black Mage once a month for a huge paycheck. Alright, so let's have a look at my characters and just to see how long each took getting to each level. So the Hayato back in January was level 258, but now fast track to the start of this. So this was what, April 16th. So it took about 3 months to go from 258 to 275. The Blaster was 262 at the end of June, so end of January, got a 270. Kana, it went up 18 levels over the course of 3 months. And then we look at the other characters, the non-Legion champs. The Shade 260, this was a hyperburn at the end of January, and then over the course of, this was 4 months? I didn't even start leveling it until, mid-April, and it got 10 levels within basically a month. And then the Dawn Warrior was 250 for a long time, slowly got to 260, and then at the, start of May to basically a month, you go from 260 to 270, and then you can see the life of this Lin. This Lin was actually manually trained from 200 to 260, no hyperburn, but it was just fed the second set, or it was just fed Monster Park in Challenger World, and it came over to Kronos. It world leaped at 267, and then you can see how long it stayed there once it transferred over, and then in 2 weeks it went from 267 to 270. So a decent idea of just how long each take. And now we have to ask, how is this possible? How did I do all this? And the biggest two proponents is Monster Park and Monster Park Extreme. With event buffs, you're going to get about 22% for a full day of Monster Park and for one Monster Park Extreme. So this, I think, equivalates to a level every 5 days? 4.5 days per level. So that's, like I said, if you're just doing Monster Park and MP, it's about, just shy of 10 weeks to get those 10 levels. So yeah, that's more or less 2 months for one character, which is not bad. However, it doesn't end there. There is, every patch cycle, we get events that also promote leveling. The biggest two that I look out for is your advanced EXP tickets and your growth pots. This one is the Transcendent growth pot, the one that takes you from 269 to 270. An absolute game changer. It's how I got, if you see the massive thing here, the blaster 267 to 270, that was just 3 Transcendent pots back to back to back, instantly went to 270. So anytime patch notes drop, I will do a Control F and look up Advanced EXP Voucher, and I'll do a Control F to look up Growth Potions just to see where it's coming from. For example, for this patch, we have the minigame Club Fair gives you this, the Maple use student ID thing gives you Advanced EXP Vouchers, and then for the growth pots, the Campus Life had one at the final reward here for the free ones, and then Summer Countdown had one here, even coming with 2 little mag pots for like the 250, the 249, 250. So yeah, always capitalize on this, as these can give you a crazy boost in EXP. And then of course, Luck Sauna is also really good, especially the current iteration of it. If you can't grind the crazy amount of 2 or 3x we get from the shop, you can always just buy Luck Sauna coupons. I did I bought like 16 of these yesterday and got like, it was like level 1.5 on the Wild Hunter. It's very nice, very easy. And sure, look, I will say, this is a big disclaimer I should probably have mentioned earlier. You are taking resources away from your main, but I do believe it's better to use these resources on side characters to get them up, to get them established. Because once they're done, all the resources then can be diverted back to your main. And you aren't shooting yourself in the foot or stretching yourself too thin. Also not like training your main as well. At least you can still do that while doing this. All right, and then speaking of manually training, is it worth it? So the issue with manually training these side characters is they lack quite a bit. So first up, Soul Janus is a game changer when it comes to trading. Like, this simplifies rates so much, but there's a cost to it. You are investing 125 frags into a meal. You're only going to get the meal to 270 anyway, so is it really any point wasting or deciding to invest these frags in such a way? Even if you do, you have the problem of these side characters at most will only have 180 drop. So at best, I think this is with a 30% familiar drop rate from a familiar plus HS. I'm only getting 275 drop. Now you compare this to my main that does have 200 drop, 100 meso. It's got like what, 100% more item drop rate thanks to it. It's like 110 familiar, double the meso obtained because it is running 100% meso. Even has that optimized inner ability, whereas the mules only have a drop rate on the familiar line. And then there's the case of Vac Pet. Even if you do decide to manually train, you only have your maybe 1 or 2, maybe you have 3 normal pets. The chances you also have access to a Vac Pet as well. It just means your rates across the board, aside from EXP, to a lesser degree, even EXP can be a little chopped if you don't have Janus unlocked. It's just going to be much more inefficient. That's why it's so much better to just use passive event resources, your dailies, Monster Park Extreme, all onto the mule, and then train the main. Train the main that has the 200 drop, 100 meso, has the Vac Pet if you have the Vac Pet. And yeah. So with the, but if you do decide to train it on whatever reason, train manually, I do believe the average EXP you're looking at is about 200 to 300 bill an hour, which is about 3 to 4 hours per level. I think that changes as well once you do hit Hotel Arcus, as the EXP basically doubles per level. So yeah, it's up to you. But now we get into another question, and that is frag investment. So off the cuff, at least for me, I am unlocking every single thing at level 1 on my meals, which costs about 600 frags, which is it's a non-zero sum. And then with Hecate coming out, you get this little baby version. That's another 125. That's 725 frags per character. And if we have to make, what, 7 of these? Well, do I count Legion Champions? look, let's just go with out of the cuff that we make 10 of these, so the math is simple. That means I need like 7,125 frags. Where am I getting those? They're not transferable. At 7,000 frags, I have to divert from my main. And to get all this, you have to kind of rely on weeklies. You have your Odor Request, which gives you about 90 frags. You have your High Mountain, Angler Company, at 40 to 50 frags respectively, and a little bit of Solid. I think that you get 1.5 from Angler Company. I think it's actually 55 frags. What am I saying? The High Mountain and Angler Company is kind of good because we do get to do 2 of these a week, and eventually you'll be able to do 1 of each coming crown with Nightmare Paradise, so you don't have to sacrifice your main. Your main can do Nightmare Paradise, and you can throw Angler Company and High Mountain onto some Boss Mules. Then again, your Boss Mules do have to be somewhat strong enough to deal with this content. It's a little difficult doing it when you are low spec. But it's a little bit of frag. So it's about, what? If you just do weeklies to get the 725 frag requirements, it's like 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks, give or take. That's 5 to 6 weeks of dailies and weeklies. Mainly just the weekly, this big one here, you aren't giving to your main. So there is a trade-off. There's also events that you can kind of capitalize on. I will always mainly divert this into the mules because once they're done, they're done. And then I can throw all these back into the main. The biggest one is whenever we get these selector coupons, these ones are fantastic. You just throw into a mule. Whenever we get an Inco note, we get a stimmy of about, like, this is the latest stimmy. It was about 390 frags, so you can just put on any character. And then, of course, like, the Goddess Pass also comes with, like, 200 frags. And, like, the hero that I just made was set. It got this plus another 100, which unlocked all its masteries and the Ascent skill, which is kind of nice. So that's about it. That's a very quick video. It's really that simple. Capitalize on events resources. Do your Monster Park dailies. Do your Monster Park Extreme. I think going into Crown, I will be designated, because come Crown, we'll be able to do 2 sets of Monster Parks. I will be focusing 1 set of Monster Park dailies onto the main, and then the second set onto a Ctene Boss Mule. Then once the Boss Mules are done, then I'll like transfer all those dailies onto a Legion Champion, so on and so forth until it's done. Monster Park Extreme, do one on your main, do one on a side character. And again, you don't need to make all these all at once. You can just do 1 at a time, build it up. Eventually, you'll be strong enough to start doing more and harder content. And by that time, it'll be high enough level to get all the advantages you need. Yes, that's it. That's it in a nutshell. It's just focus on be a diligent daily doer, do your weeklies, and invest resources into your mule so you can spend as much time as possible on the main. That's really the trick here. Spend as much time as possible on the main while the mule gets all the little hand-me-downs from all these events. Yeah, that about wraps it up for me. As always, thank you all for watching. And of course, have a good day. Catch you all in the next one.